Our top story tonight, some going down in November.
Wars, spending.
There has got to be something big a-brewing.
They're using geese to guard prisons in Brazil. Does Biden know what
Immigration
Mexico
policies.
is? Would you scare Joe Biden? What are we laughing at? I think
Butthole.
Billy Mays was real.
I'm a world-class skeptic.
I don't know anything about Hunter Biden. I don't know who's big into cocaine and laptops. Why is that our problem? Complete, absolute incompetence. Like, who funds the news? It's a freaking inside job, man. That the entire world's a stage and everything's fake.
Welcome back. Another episode of the Veritas Road. Carson and Murph here with our top story tonight. In an exit poll after the recent election, T.V.R. reporters asked Democratic voters why they were against voting for Donald Trump. When questioned about why they did not want to see the former president back in office, one voter stated, "We don't want to see another rich, lecherous old who cheats on his moron wife back in office. But we'd be more than happy to have Bill and Hillary back in there anytime."
Bill and Clinton.
Bill and Clinton.
That could be a TV shirt. See, you've infected me. I combine T-shirt and TV show into TV shirt.
That's 2 weeks in a row. I can't
I was
say
about
anything.
to say how many weeks are you gonna those up?
I don't know. It hasn't gone well. It hasn't been going well. I've had a cold the past 4 days. I feel like death. It's fine. We'll be all right. That's why I sound like a. How would you describe this particular sound? Do I sound like a smoker?
Right now, you sound normal to me.
Okay. Well, that's good. I don't sound normal in my own head. You know? You ever have that happen where
That's
you
called
sound weird to yourself?
Yeah, that's called schizophrenia.
I'm not hearing extra voices. Hearing my own voice.
That's what they'd all say. I'm sure that's what they say. I think we need to commit you to a mental ward.
That I know a lady who's in one of those. My mom does.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. She's got multiple personality disorder.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
It's
Kinda scary.
freaky. It's terrifying. Watching that personality shift they'll have is scary as hell.
Yeah, I don't know. Have I seen that? Probably. I don't like talking about that.
Why?
It is freaky, man. Because you can't trust somebody.
I mean, it doesn't mean necessarily that you can't trust them. It does mean you gotta make sure you're talking to the right person. Am I talking to Susan right now or Angelica? You know,
Right, that's an issue with trust. Somebody should be who they are all the time.
Okay, point well taken. Let's talk about the other on the news.
Yeah, man. What do you got?
So I have a plethora of stories again this week. I just can't help myself once I start looking at news stories. I just have to keep going through. So the first one I have was there's this guy in New York, this homeless guy who just started stabbing people. This is the condition of big cities these days. They've all gone to absolute after Corona. They're all falling apart. And this homeless guy just started walking through New York just calmly. He stabbed 3 people in a row, just calmly stabbing strangers.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. And just this kind of thing happens now.
Yeah. Just, dude, it's probably demon possession or, I mean, it's just insane.
What in the world?
He killed people? Did he kill them or he just stabbed them?
I don't know if they died. I don't remember.
It says killing spree, so that means...
I assumed at least a couple of them died. Because one of the guys he stabbed 3 or 4 times. At the very least, it was a construction worker. I think he stabbed some kind of middle-aged woman. He stabbed... it was at least 3 people.
Yeah, I read that
they were aware of.
He was just 1 month out of jail.
Yeah.
Dude, the whole jail, in and out, I mean, it's super screwed up. And all those people... you can pretty much tell. No, I shouldn't say all of them. But I bet 90% of the people, they have no chance from the beginning once you're in the system.
Well, yeah, and there's that whole concept of once you get thrown in jail, especially if your life wasn't that great to begin with, you may not want to be out. I've heard that thrown around a few times, and I mean, I don't think the concept is completely without merit. You've got a schedule. You don't have to worry about food. Simple.
What's the deal with
You
the
got
whole
shelter?
Yeah, but there's the whole private prisons thing where people make money off of prisons and it's free labor and they
Oh yeah, it's insane. That part is a huge problem. So, a good chunk of the prison systems in the state are privately owned. They're privately owned corporations. They're not run by the obviously they're tied to the U.S. government, but they're not run by the U.S. government. They're owned by people, and so the people who fund those lobby for specific things. They also get a ton of perks out of running a prison, like you said, free labor. But one of the areas where a lot of the podcast media gets frustrated is with like marijuana legalization, because there are so many people who are incarcerated for like silly stuff like weed, and these prison organizations will lobby for some of these crazy drug laws where like marijuana is like what, a Schedule 4.
Who are you looking at, John? I have no idea. Dude.
But marijuana is scheduled not where it should be scheduled. It's with like hard drugs, and I think we're all aware marijuana is pretty not hard as far as drugs go. So, and that's one of the things that perpetuates it being where it is.
Schedule 3 controlled substance.
Okay. So I think it was a Schedule 4 at one point in time?
It was, and then they went through a whole big thing to
Okay, so they finally dropped it down.
Still illegal federally.
Right. But point being, a lot of these prison organizations lobby for continued classification of things like marijuana as a scheduled substance, which is ridiculous. But it keeps their prisons full. It helps them make money. There are massive incentives for them to either push for or maintain laws that will keep their prisons full, because that's where they make the money. And that's a problem.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that homeless guy, but he probably has a rap sheet a mile long, been in and out of prison his whole life.
Here's another question. How much stuff on that rap sheet is really prison worthy? That I wonder about people like that,
I don't know, man. I'd have to look at it. In the beginning, I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably not much.
Right.
In the end, once you're in the system, it probably builds on itself, and probably a lot. But
yeah.
Because that guy looked pretty old. But
I think he was middle-aged, 50.
It's pretty old.
50, 60.
I mean, that's probably, like 35 years at least in the prison system.
It could be.
If he's 50.
Who knows? Yeah. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, that's wild, man. Makes you want to wear body armor everywhere.
It does a little bit. It does. All right, I've scared myself enough. Let's move on to the next one, John. So Kamala Harris had enough of not paying attention to being vice president for like 70 days while she ran her campaign. So she's continuing to pay no attention to her job and going to Hawaii for a week. And that is newsworthy. Fox News decided to report on that.
Of course Fox News is going to report on that. It's going to make the baby boomers all mad and be like, she's terrible. She's vacationing.
That is such an unflattering picture of her. Look at that.
Where?
Scroll down, John. Right there.
Yeah, she looks like a demon.
She's hotter than that. Like, let's be honest. She's more attractive than that.
Oh, that looks like
it's very unflattering.
You know what? I'm serious right now. That looks like Obama with a wig on. That looks like Obama right there.
A little bit. It doesn't look that much like Obama.
I
don't think your facial recognition skills are very good. I think that's part of the problem here.
He or she is probably Obama, or Zara is probably Obama's half-sister.
Maybe she's a two-spirit. Maybe she goes back and forth.
Could be, man. Baphomet.
But if you need to find Kamala Harris for the next week, she'll be in Hawaii. Maybe we can go hang out with her.
All right, two things about that.
All right.
Number one, what's she doing anyway? How is her being in Hawaii different than anything else she's ever doing?
And that's a fair point. Like, why do we feel the need to report on it? What vice president has ever done much of anything? Except for Dick Cheney. He killed a bunch of people. But outside of that, what vice president has ever done much of anything?
I don't think. Well, he did kill a bunch of people through 9/11. But what you're referring to, I don't think the guy actually died. He shot a guy.
I was making veiled references to both.
Okay. And I picked up on both.
So
good job.
Thanks.
Second of all, Hawaii's 33, man, so they're just throwing that in there to mock us. But
could be.
Yeah. Well, she also is the vice president in history with the most tie-breaking votes in the Senate. So she's actually been involved in passing the most bills out of the Senate of any vice president.
That's hilarious.
So she actually does a lot, kind of, like. Because it's like the Republican.
Are you arguing for Kamala Harris, John?
No, I'm just saying is like,
get out of here. Get out of this
no,
house.
That's not the point I'm trying to make.
You can leave now.
She actually does a lot of bad crap, but she's actually one of the more involved vice presidents.
Interesting. All right, I'll take your word for it.
I did know.
You kind of have to be. Joe Biden's mentally retarded. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. He can't function. Somebody's got to be there to pick up the slack. So moving on to the next one. We don't have to spend much time on this one. There are 6 monkeys still unaccounted for in South Carolina. We talked about it last week. We're just keeping up with the amount of monkeys that are still on the loose.
This is going to be a running thing
until they're. I guess so. I keep seeing it on the news. So.
They have a countdown on the ticker tape for CNN.
Yeah, there were. You could look at Associated Press's website and like you could follow the news story in the history. It'd be like 6 monkeys was today, and then like a few days ago it was like 8 monkeys, and then a few days before it was like 12. So they're keeping a running tally of the monkeys still out in the wild.
Yeah, dude, they might
which
be.
is insane.
Well, think about it. They'll be causing monkeypox, won't they?
Are they game
Right.
monkeys? I don't know.
Isn't that how monkeypox? Doesn't monkeypox come from monkeys?
I don't know.
Like if I got bit by a chicken, I'd get chicken pops,
That's not how that works.
right?
Chicken pops.
Yeah. I was thinking about Snap, Crackle, and Pop Rice Krispies. We were talking about that off camera before. My brain is, very addled right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's wild that people are so invested in this monkey thing.
It's just so dumb, man. I bet between the people that you and I know, we could get like 15 guys to go round up that problem right now.
Probably. Monkeys are. I bet monkeys are crafty though. They're probably hard to catch.
Yeah, but I mean, you just get out there with like 45 guns and they're done for.
Well, I think they're trying to capture them, not kill them.
Well, maybe that's their problem. Do these monkeys need to live? How many? What kind of monkeys are they? Reese's Machins? Reese's Macare, I think I read.
I can't remember.
How many of those do you think are in the world? Are we gonna miss 6?
Well, I mean, they're breeding them, so can't we just replace them? Like, can't we just breed more?
Yeah, then what's the problem then?
Right. I guess they're afraid of like them continuing to like becoming some kind of invasive species or something. Continuing to propagate.
Yeah. Like mice on those Pacific islands.
Yeah.
So
Stuff like that.
they'll ruin the ecosystem.
Right. Which we've already done to plenty of ecosystems here in the States. Why are we worried about North Carolina? Who cares? Or South Carolina, whichever one this is. Why do we need more of one state? Let's get rid of North or South Carolina. Let's get rid of one of the Dakotas. That's retarded. Why do we need more than one? Pick a new name.
I don't know the story behind the Dakotas or the Carolinas, but I do know Virginia and West Virginia betrayed us, so we don't want them back.
Oh, you're talking about the Civil War.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Confederation, the true government of this land right here. We don't want West Virginia back. We might as well call them North Virginia, Trader Virginia.
Well, they just need a new name that doesn't have Virginia in it.
Yeah, how about Go Suck a Dickistan, because we hate y'all.
Go Suck a Dickistan.
Yeah.
Great name.
That's how I feel about West Virginia.
So we should rename the podcast.
That would be hilarious.
Moving on. Next story.
Yeah, are we going to mine or do you have another one?
I have one last one. We don't have to spend much time on this one either. Google got slapped with an antitrust suit. They're trying to make the Department of Justice is trying to make them sell Chrome, which I think is wild.
Who are they going to sell it to?
That's the big question. Also, something that I found interesting. One of the people who's hearing the case. Can we get that pop
Join
up
now,
off of the screen, John?
$100 a month.
One of the people who's dealing with the case is named Meta, and I just think that's strange.
You know what? I think meta is the Hebrew word for deaf. Fun fact.
Really?
Yeah. So I bet if Google has to sell Chrome, Alphabet Incorporated will just buy it. That's probably what will happen.
Maybe so.
They'll sell it to Alphabet. What a joke.
Yeah.
It's too big. I mean, they're going to sell it to themselves.
Yeah.
The DOJ is Google. What's the difference?
It's probably true.
They're all together.
Yeah.
That's dumb.
Yeah.
They're just like acting like they're doing stuff, and all the Republicans will be like, "Oh yeah, get them," antitrust, and it's just a dog and pony show.
Right.
Everybody use Yandex, the Russian search engine. It's great.
I mean, I love the concept that somebody is trying to peg them with an antitrust suit.
But they're not actually doing that.
No, I mean, but conceptually, I like the idea.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the story. They're like, "Oh, stuff's happening. We're good." That's the point of the story.
Well, I want to be optimistic about it and imagine that it's true for a minute.
Well, I'm sure that happened to a lot of people in 1984.
Probably did. Oh, it's a bone-chilling book.
Yeah, screw Google, screw Chrome, screw Meta.
But watch our YouTube.
That's right. Well, you just go out and make your own YouTube, like
yeah,
Blue
you can
Sky.
just do that.
Like Blue Sky.
Hey, they did that.
Yeah, I know we talked about that recently.
Talked about that last week.
But there's a bunch of pedos on Blue Sky. Have you seen all that on Twitter?
No, but I'm not surprised. Don't make any new social medias. It will be rife with pedophiles and that's what they're used for. New kinds of social media are used for pedophilia, right? I mean, that's what they're for, I feel like.
I know there's a bunch of liberals on Blue Sky who are all about that.
They're probably not pedophiles. They're probably minor attracted persons.
Yeah, but what's the difference? There is none.
Right, exactly. But if they're liberal, that's what they are, and that makes it okay.
Dude,
right? If you give it a new name, it's not pedophile.
I hope that is not caught on legally anywhere. That
Surely not.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't trust.
There's no way.
I don't know. California?
California's gonna burn one day. It's just gonna.
It already has. They have wildfires all the time.
That's true. Maybe God's just pissed at California. Maybe that's why they have all these wildfires.
I don't know, dude. I'm trying to think of the most liberal county in California. Is Los Angeles County a county?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's got to be it then, right?
You would think.
Or San Francisco County.
One of those two. Is that the county San Francisco's in? Are you sure?
I think so. Pretty sure.
Let's find out what county San Francisco's in. This is important stuff we're bringing to our listeners here.
85% sure San Francisco's in San Francisco County. Let's see.
This is very exciting stuff.
I'm excited. City and county. It is.
All right, now we know. All right,
Look
we
at
know
me.
for sure.
Dude, hey, don't go. You cannot go toe to toe with me on geography.
Well, I wasn't trying
Okay.
to disagree with you.
Well,
I
I'm
was just
puffing my
wanting to know.
chest out.
That's
and
one of the.
letting you know. Do not try to go at me on geography.
I never will. That's just one. You sounded unsure, and I'm not used to you sounding unsure about geography.
I just wasn't 100% sure. I said
Yeah.
85, so I was right.
All right.
It's called a hunch.
That's more than a hunch.
That's a hunch combined with poor memory.
It's a hunch plus.
Yeah.
That much surety is a hunch. Anyway, let's move on to your news story.
$7.99 a month for Hunch Plus. We can stream.
You know, Chick-fil-A. Sorry, we can look this up. But Chick-fil-A is trying to come out with their own streaming service.
It's gonna be called Chick-fil-A Plus. They're all called that.
Like, why is Chick-fil-A coming out with their own streaming service? I'm pretty sure this is true. I heard this on a podcast, but supposedly they're coming out with family-friendly content that's not necessarily about Chick-fil-A products.
I don't know, but it could be an opportunity to make money. You could pander to the evangelical right who equate Chick-fil-A with the Gospel of Matthew. Like there's no different.
Is this real, John? We finding any information about?
Dude, that's
There
making
it
me.
is.
Dude, I want.
Original shows.
That is making me so hungry right now. I want Chick-fil-A.
Unscripted content. Chick-fil-A is going to have reality shows. You're gonna go watch a Chick-fil-A version of Big Brother.
I'd watch that. Do they have a reality show about the life of a Chick-fil-A employee?
That's ridiculous.
I know one. I know a man who owns a Chick-fil-A, or who's the manager at Chick-fil-A. So do you.
Yeah.
I'd watch a reality show about his life. Would you?
I basically have. I lived with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's wild.
That's crazy.
That's sad. When fast food restaurants are thinking about trying to make streaming services, our culture is not going well.
Oh, it's late stage capitalism. We're done for. But dude, think about it. I would watch a reality TV show on Wendy's. Think of all the crap that goes down at a Wendy's at 12:30 at night.
Well, yeah, but that's Wendy's. You wouldn't want to watch a reality TV show about Chick-fil-A. It'd just be a bunch of happy, smiling, dorky white kids saying "my pleasure" all day. You know.
And it'd basically be like the Pioneer Woman with just fast food.
Right. I find her insufferable.
I can't. Yeah, I can't. Just creepy vibes on her.
I love Food Network, but I can't. Something about her I don't like.
Yeah. Plus, she's married to the richest landowner in all of Oklahoma.
Really?
Yeah. I think he owns the most land in Oklahoma. It's gargantuan.
So she slept her way to the top.
Gotta be. That's how all girls do it, man. Let's be real. Let's be real, dude. There's some truth to this patriarchy.
Oprah didn't sleep her way to the top.
It's because Oprah's a man. Hashtag transpocalypse. Fight me.
What about Megyn Kelly? She's hot. She's not bad.
She is pretty hot.
Yeah.
I saw.
I think she got there on her own merit.
I don't know. She's probably banged Rupert Murdoch 33 times.
I don't know. Megyn Kelly's still hot at 50-something. Which I respect.
She's not at Fox News anymore, is she?
I don't know where she's at. I think she's her own thing now. She's like
Megan News?
Megyn Kelly Incorporated or something. Doing her own thing.
Hey, we'll have you on the show, Megan.
Please come on.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to talk. I'd be too distracted.
It would be cool to talk to her.
Yeah, it'd be fascinating.
She's probably been in the CIA.
Probably knows a hell of a lot more about that stuff than we do.
Yeah, it's part of Mockingbird, I bet.
Maybe.
All right, let's get to mine.
Yeah.
We've beaten this dead horse. So mine goes back to our other modification.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
So this Democrat representative, now Lord have mercy, I can't say that, Raja Kalahua. Kalahuna. Krish Kamorle. Krishnamurthy.
Raja
Yeah.
Krishnamurthy.
Yeah. So this is this a woman? It sounds woman to me.
I'm pretty sure that's a. I don't know. I thought
Anyway,
Raja was a man.
I don't
name,
know. It's not. Isn't that the lion or the tiger from the Jungle Book? So this Democrat representative from New York actually confronts FEMA about directing hurricanes.
And
I don't know.
what did FEMA say?
I don't really know.
You didn't read this, did you?
I didn't. I read a little bit of it because they were like, they admitted to not helping Trump houses because that's just what Washington told them to, and somebody at FEMA got fired for that. Like
Wait.
somebody,
Say that again.
all right, so the hurricane happened in Florida, right? Milton,
Right.
right? And FEMA goes in because they have to help, right? People can't take care of themselves, so we need FEMA. That's
Right.
the idea because
Yeah,
people are dumb.
It's very that concept in and of itself is like really condescending.
It is, man.
You guys can't take care of your own. We need an organization to take care of it. For
A
you.
federal organization. It isn't
Yeah.
even Florida, dude.
Right.
Like, why is there a Florida FEMA? Is it FF? Is it F?
FEMA?
Yeah, FEMA.
I
Right.
don't know.
Um,
FEMA.
I mean, because that's all that stuff should be left to the state. Why is the feds coming in to a state problem? Isn't
Fair
that?
question?
I mean, that seems like a direct violation of the 10th Amendment. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is that FEMA didn't help like Trump houses.
Okay, that phrase doesn't make any sense to me.
I guess you could tell it's a Trump house. 'cause-
Houses for Trump supporters that had like noticeable like Trump
Oh,
signs or stuff like that. Trump houses is a stupid way to describe
Okay,
that.
good. That
Houses
makes,
of individuals who have displayed that they are supporting Donald Trump.
Okay.
simplified to the term Trump houses. Okay, FEMA didn't help them.
Autism got in the way there a little bit.
Well, Trump owns a load of houses, probably in Florida,
Yeah.
so you do need to delineate a little bit.
So FEMA selectively decided not to help people who had Trump paraphernalia or Trump signs at their homes.
Right, and the head of FEMA got fired for that, according to this article. That was probably a thing in the news. I don't keep up with the news. And then this Democrat took it a step up and confronted FEMA about directing the hurricane on Trump houses.
Oh my gosh!
So, I mean, this
A
weather,
Democrat did? Why would
Yeah.
they do that?
I don't know, dude, but I mean, Raja
Krishnamurthy.
RK. All right,
RK.
RK.
Representative RK.
I mean, kudos to you, man. You're helping validate our. Who's this random old man running? Get rid of this ad, John.
It's not important.
Um,
Focus.
It's hard to when that.
Right here.
It was
Would
hard.
you like to see the video? Would that be helpful?
No,
How long is it?
It's
no,
a minute and 27.
we don't need to see it unless you want to. But
I'm kind of curious. I don't know if they say anything worthwhile in the video.
my whole point is it's validating our entire episode.
Yeah. No,
like
I mean, you're
last
right.
week. This
Yeah.
is in the news. This is real.
I
This
want
is
to
a
know what
thing in
FEMA's
Congress.
response was, though, because, like,
Thank you, Chairman.
it's crazy that a representative from Illinois decided to question FEMA about that, because that's not something you think of senators doing or state representatives, whatever that she was, he was, they, them, it. But like, it's that's just what. Oh, sorry, we're ready.
Yeah, let's listen to it.
Thank you, Administrator, for your service. I want to show you a visual. Do you recognize this picture?
I do not.
Good. It's an atmospheric research facility in Alaska that, believe it or not, conspiracy theorists allege is a mind-controlling weather machine. And one of the conspiracy theories out there is that somehow FEMA controls the weather. And I assume that you, as the administrator, do not control the weather, right?
I do not control the weather.
And you don't use secret machines that control hurricanes to target certain places in the United States, right?
Correct.
And you and your team did not direct severe weather at North Carolina to, quote-unquote, commandeer lithium mine property in that state, right?
Why would anybody want to bring harm to the American people?
And you would not direct severe weather to target any one of a particular political party, right?
Never.
You're not establishing FEMA camps to detain individuals or enact martial law, right?
Correct.
These are all conspiracy theories that you've had to deal with. I'm glad that you have addressed them in this forum. Now let me talk about stuff that's true. It's true that during Hurricane Helene and Milton, FEMA
Whoa, let him finish. I'm curious what.
assisted more than 35,000 households with disaster
Oh.
relief, right?
This guy's a Democrat.
Well, yeah, that was also like he didn't do what you were suggesting he was doing.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah, no. I take back
I'm glad we watched that.
Yeah, me too. I take back everything kind I said about this guy. He sucks.
This is why we read and or watch these videos.
But the point remains that they're still bringing it up.
I mean, they are bringing it up. It's made, like, the concept has made enough waves on social media and out in the, the void that I guess it's reached. Is he a senator? Is he a state representative? I think he's a representative.
He's a congressman. Yeah.
So I guess he's small potatoes, but still reached his ears, which is kind of crazy.
Dude, look how scary that guy looks behind her to the left. Look at that guy.
He does look like somebody
I mean,
who would show up at your house to murder.
That
you.
guy looks like an operative if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Wow.
Yeah, screw you, Christian Maury. All right, well, that was mine.
It was kind of a bust in the end.
Well, sometimes it happens, man. You can't
You tried.
go 100 for 100.
Right. That's true. Oh, I mean, don't I know it? I haven't been able to talk past 2 weeks.
You're going to get the third week.
Third time's a charm, I guess.
And that wasn't as bad. You just said Bill and Clinton. Right. You could have kept it going.
Maybe so. So, damn it, I printed out the wrong sheet. I'm gonna have to pull it up on my computer. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, I guess a little bit of my own personal experience, and see, maybe talk about how like it might be affecting, like, what are you doing?
That was like almost close to halfway off the table, and I just trying to avoid that
I
spilling.
appreciate that.
Keep talking.
How it might be like similar things maybe affecting people on the whole, and one of the things I've been reading, Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, and a lot of the work that she's put out there, a lot of her books have to do with like work and production, and that has even been a big topic in this election, like things like unemployment, and was huge over Corona, like talking about how nobody wanted to work and that sort of thing. And so, one of the things that I hear people say all the time, just to, I guess, get the conversation rolling, is like, well, nobody wants to work anymore, right? But at least in my experience, like, it seems like the opposite's the case. I meet people all the time who are looking for jobs, who are working multiple jobs. Like, it's rare that I run into people who are like, yeah, I just don't work. Screw that. I'm on disability. That, What's your experience been like?
My experience in this, like, well, you got to think about, this is all, that whole idea and concept is really geographically tied. Like, we're in the South. We are in a decently, it's not like rural, but it's still, like, compared to New York City or Chicago or something, it's pretty rural, still fairly industrial, fairly blue collar. So that's going to be a lot different than a gigantic welfare, I don't know, city. Okay, which the culture is way different than where we live. Having said that, I agree with you in our area, man. Like, people are busting their butt, always looking for just a way to get by.
Yeah.
Probably because, and this is going to sound, I don't know, kind of racist, but the system isn't necessarily geared to people like us, right? Like, the whole system, in my opinion, is designed to keep a certain class, like, in perpetual underclass
Status,
right?
What do you mean by that?
Like, all the immigrant, like, basically not white people, okay? Like, America is founded upon, like, European culture, right? Essentially.
Okay.
And
I think we would agree on that.
Western ways of life and Western ideas and Western all this and all that, right? And then the way to destroy that is to bring create a melting pot where there's no culture, there's no identity, diversity is their identity, and it's just mass chaos, right? Would you agree with that?
I don't know that I would, but
Why?
keep going. Finish your point.
Well, why wouldn't you agree with that?
Well, I mean, you're saying, I'm not sure I completely understand what you're saying. So I think what you're suggesting is like the culture we live in is very like at least was very westernized, very Eurocentric, that sort of thing. Yes.
Yeah, very
And
Christian.
You're okay. Yeah, and you're suggesting that people are trying to destroy that with like DEI nonsense. Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I'm trying to connect it to work, like through all these immigrants, and for lack of a better word, brown people that they just bring in here from everywhere. You know, it's not just Mexico. You know, they're bringing like
illegal immigrants and stuff. Is that what you're talking about?
or even legal immigrants. You know, there's both, right? Shipping a bunch of people in here, giving all kinds of incentives to single motherhood.
Well, we're starting to bring in other things then, because, you know, single moms and other cultures are two different things. So, you're gonna have to be a little more specific.
My point is, work is tied to an old way of thinking, right? That still predominantly exists here because of the like demographic makeup of this area.
Okay.
Would you agree with that? Right, in more diversified areas, cities, these cultural blending melting pots, I feel like that is less than.
I guess I'm not I'm not sure why you think that. I don't completely understand, because at least all the people I meet, whether it be here or I mean in Nashville or wherever, which I get Nashville isn't that big of a city, but it's the biggest we have close by. You know, everybody I meet has this conceptualization of, you know, work is important. I want to work. Work is my life.
Well, how many people are you meeting that's not in your class? That's not in your same socioeconomic class?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty broke, so everybody I meet is in my socioeconomic class or higher, it seems.
All right, how many people are you meeting on food stamps? How many people are you meeting that live in trailer parks?
I mean, not very many.
Right, that live on the
not
system.
very many. Yeah.
Right? Like the whole 1984 idea is that you've got three different groups, right? You've got the proletariats, which are like, you know, 65% of the people, just like basically like your people that are just living off the system, that are, this sounds terrible, but like the kids are screwed from the moment they're born.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to be poor forever, living off the system, constantly in and out of prison, living destitute off of food stamps, you know, that kind of thing. And then you've got like the party, which is like 15% of the population, which is like the white collar people.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're basically destroying the middle class. You're getting the proletariat just dumbed down, masses that don't know anything, the ultra white collar people that fit lockstep with these corporate policies, and then the top, you know, 1% that rules everything.
To your point, I feel like I've seen more and more. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize you were
Well, that my entire what I'm trying to say is that we still live in my opinion, an area of the country where that transition is still taking place, and therefore I feel like your experience would be more validated as opposed to other areas in like cities and stuff where perhaps the proletariat goal has already been established. Like the
Seattle.
The middle class is dead there.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's I don't know. You may be right, but I don't know because I haven't spent much time in New York or Chicago or, you know, L.A. or Seattle. You know, so I don't know.
We just know what we see on the news, but I mean, go to your news story. That guy just randomly stabbing people. That guy's not looking for work. You know,
maybe that was his way of finding work. Maybe those people denied him jobs.
Yeah, I don't know. We kind of I don't know. Kind of lost the point there.
I think we did kind of lose the thread.
Probably my fault, but.
To tie us back to something a little more concrete, one of the things that has bothered me that I've seen more and more in the job market as of late is how fake jobs seem to be. Like when I moved into the corporate world and started working, be it in like clinical research or insurance or what have you, like 90% of what we do really doesn't matter in the corporate world. Like none of it really matters. You're just messing around with a sheet that you'll send off to someone else. They'll look over it. They'll send it off to someone else, you know, and they'll look over it. And in the end, you don't really accomplish anything. And I think like people are starting to wake up to that concept and like not give a I think that's happening. Yeah. I was riding home. I had to give my mom a ride somewhere. It was actually a couple of months ago, but I was telling her like what I was doing for work, and we were talking about like some of the people who I knew who were occupying like a nice apartment building in the area, and I was telling her what they did for a living, and she's like, "Well, all of those people just have fake jobs." And I was like, "What? you're right. Like, you're right. Those jobs are all fake. They're not doing anything, like, even remotely concrete.
Well, dude, there's a big assumption out there that's just not true, man. That the idea that a job is work, right? We got to whittle it down to this. We got to get back to the basics. We got to define our terms here. Like, it's becoming that convoluted and that crazy that we don't even know what work is, right? Is going on your computer for a gigantic corporation from 9 to 5 and typing in stuff and following policies and filling out forms and doing this and doing that. Is that work? You know, who gets to decide what the definition of work is?
And I think that's super important. What you're saying is super important. I grabbed some statistics to kind of illustrate how important that concept is, because how you define work is hugely important in that arena, because you spend a load of your time working.
Well, that's
right?
the only way we can go forward to determine what problems there are.
Yeah.
Is if we understand what we're talking about from the first place.
Right. But like, so I grabbed a couple of. The average person spends 90,000 hours plus of their life working at their job.
Okay.
Working.
How many hours is in a life?
So I pulled that too. Let's see here. The average life expectancy is about 650,000 hours. So you're spending roughly 1/6 of your life. And this is including commute, because I factored in commuting later. So the average, if you include commuting time, the average person spends about 100,000 hours of their life devoted to work in some shape or form. And so you're spending about 1/6 of your life devoted to whatever job you hold.
Right.
On average.
So 1/6 of your life to your job, 2/6 of your life is sleeping.
Right.
So half your life is immediately
gone.
So you've got half of your life.
And what bothers me, and this is something that I've had a lot of personal frustration with, is people seem to just accept dealing with the misery of the jobs that a lot of us work. Like, I had somebody say to me a while back, they're like, "Hey, if you're not a little bit miserable, are you even like, what are you doing? You know, that's just what having a job and working in the corporate world is, you know." And I was like, well, I don't want to do that, for one. Like, that's just what having a job is. And that really bothered me. And then B, like, why are we okay with devoting such a large portion of our lives to, like, bullshit jobs? I know a ton of people, and people have told me this, to do this as well, who are just okay with not getting any personal fulfillment out of the thing they spend 1/6 of their life doing. Like, they're okay with just dealing with it, you know? And I don't understand that either.
Yeah, some thoughts on that. The idea that you just have to go to work because that's life. Right? That's a bait and switch.
Well, and that's another area where we really need to define what work is.
That's what I'm going to say. That's true. Okay?
Yeah.
But what we're doing is not work.
Yeah.
Right.
I would agree with that.
Now, to say that you have to go to this American corporate idea of work because that's life is just that's admitting defeat. Okay? It's admitting defeat.
Yeah.
Because that's not what men are supposed to do. That's not work. God gave us two things, right? He gave us two things. To men, you got to toil in the ground to produce your food because you screwed up. To women, it's going to be extremely painful to produce children. Okay? Everything else in this life is of non-creator origin. Okay? So that should be, in my opinion, our only inhibiting factors to our happiness. Does that make sense? Like, anything else that's thrown on top of that is artificial. And this idea that we have to spend, like you said, 1/6 of our life going to this faceless corporation, doing stuff that we hate, is just not of God, man. And we're fed so much propaganda, right? From the moment we enter school, it's like, hey, you learn this, you'll get a good job.
Yeah, so you can do well at your job.
Right, go to college, you can get a good job, you can get a lot of money.
Right.
You're promised this dream of a house, a family, of kids.
Yeah.
You can be saving back for retirement. You know, if you make it into your big 30s, you can get like manager promotion. After that, if you can make it to like 48 through 52, maybe you'll be on some boards. You'll be set. You'll have all this kind of influence. And at the end of the day, you know, maybe you'll have a personal financial statement that's, you know, you can look down and be like, hey, I'm worth $6 million. All right.
What have you done, though?
I'm on these boards. I'm nothing. What have you made? What have you contributed that lasts?
Yeah.
What have you produced? What, is any of that worth any value? The reason it's so scary to even talk like that and to say that is because it's such a propaganda push, like I said, from the moment we're in kindergarten to the moment you graduate, that your work is your life, that your career is what you're supposed to do in life, and your career is directly tied to your success in this life,
Yeah.
right? Which is always never explicitly said. But in this corporate culture, that's what it is. In this middle class, whatever we live in right here, that's what it is. And
I think you hit on something there. Is like people being on the board, like that has value because we assign. It's almost like fiat currency. It has value because we assign it value.
right. Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, man. That's how everything in the corporate world is. It's top down, man.
Yeah. I've got a better title than you.
Right.
What does that title do for me? It does nothing. It has value. It's all perceived value. It has no actual intrinsic value at all. Pointless.
Yeah. So I don't know. Working is. Let's define work.
Yeah.
How would you define it? I'll define it and then you define it. See if you agree with me.
Okay.
All right. Because I would say that it is you taking your time and your physical, actual energy. Like you have to be doing something, making something, right? And to create something that has value, something that is tangible, that has value.
I think my definition would be pretty close to that. I would say it would be like using my work would be the act of using my time and energy to build, to create, or to add value, to build or create something with value or to add value to something that already exists. And I've never done any of those things in any job I've ever had.
Yeah, but people could argue, well, you're doing that thing, you're adding value to the corporation.
But
right?
you're not. Like me filling out a form doesn't add value to my, to the corporation.
Yeah,
It
well,
just
if
doesn't.
we got to define value. What is value?
That's a good point.
Right, because something is value to me has got to be an objective thing, right? You can't be told something is valuable.
Right.
It has to be universally agreed upon.
Yeah.
Which gets back to values tied to God.
Explain.
What do we intrinsically know that's valuable? Okay, our life. That's probably the number one. All life. Our children, man. There's nothing more precious and valuable
Still
in the
life.
world. Yeah, is to create a child, right?
Yeah, but that's still life.
Well,
so
it's the generation of new life. It's like a step up, And I think so.
I think of them as the same thing.
It's an even higher level of.
Well, I'd say then you could just replace life with that concept, because that's what really most people mean when they mean life. They mean all of that,
Yeah.
together.
There's nothing more valuable than that,
Okay.
is there?
Well, there's other valuable stuff. Sure, there's probably nothing
right.
more valuable than life, but
Well, I'm trying to establish a baseline here. So, things that are good are valuable to you, right? Like the product of your hands, the creation's valuable. Through whatever form that looks like. It's got a million different degrees, but
Right.
it always involves creation. It always involves problem solving.
oh, and that's the problem with most corporate jobs is people don't create anymore.
Yeah, it's an imitation of creation. It's like right? It's like
Yeah.
It's almost like I don't know, it's like some kind of weird dystopian puzzle that's that's trying to take the place of our creative genes or creative intuitions or inclinations.
Yeah, and I'm going to sound like you saying this, but it's almost like somebody came in and wanted to fake to you this act you're doing is actually worthwhile, that you're actually creating something, and it seems like total bull.
That's dude.
Yeah.
You want to go into that right now? Because that's the whole point. That's the whole point of the corporate system. It's an imitation of the creator system. And that ties all the way down through every corporate job you can ever imagine. It's an imitation of what his intentions are for us.
Yeah.
And that's why it can seem enticing and feel like it's working for a while, because it's almost like you got a puzzle piece that's close but not quite, but you can kind of finagle it in there maybe, but eventually the whole picture's not going to add up because it's not real.
Right.
You know what it could just the whole idea of corporation Okay, the etymology of that word, right? A core. So let's break it down. Corp, that's a body. All right, that's a dead body. Something that is dead is not alive.
Right.
Oration is a public speech, a public presentation given to a crowd. Jumping together, a body presenting itself as a dead body that is acting as it alive to a crowd. Just the idea of the entire corporate system is a false image of the creator system. And that right there is the root of the problem, I think.
And that may very well be. I guess the thing that bothers me so much is that, like, so as I said earlier, I've been rereading some of Ayn Rand's work lately, and there are large portions of the things she writes that ring very true. Obviously, she's kind of a and, you know, not the greatest person, but I think a lot of her concepts were very, very much correct. And one of the big things she writes about in her books is her character, the joy her characters take in producing, in creating, in working, in doing the things that they do. And sometimes it's almost, it's single-minded to the point of being a little bit scary, but the way she describes it is absolutely beautiful. And me being, like, I might not always seem it, but I tend to be probably too idealistic in the way I think about things. But that's always been something I think I've unconsciously been pursuing, is this idea that work can be something that is, like, exceptionally fulfilling on a level that I don't think much, if anyone, ever has the opportunity to experience. And it's something that she describes very poignantly in her books. But that's something I've always kind of unconsciously been pursuing. And I've never been able to find it at any kind of job I've had, except for, well, when we ran a restaurant out of our dorm room.
That's right.
And doing this, like, those are the only two things where I've ever kind of experienced at least a hint of the joy that she writes in those characters. But it rings so true. I don't think it can be, like, I think it's one of those concepts, you read about a concept in a book and it rings so true in the text. You're like, I know that's like a universal truth of life. And so it's something that I don't know if I have to believe that it exists, but it's something I choose to believe exists.
You said work can be something that is fulfilling, right?
Yeah.
I would challenge that. Work is something that is fulfilling. Anything else is called slavery, right?
Okay.
You can't have your cake and eat it too. You're either working or you're a slave, right?
I don't know that I 100% agree with that.
Why not?
Well, and this is gonna sound horrible on tape later, but like, biblically, because I know that's your favorite topic to go back to, but, like, you read when, is it Paul is writing to, dang it, who is a slave he writes to in the about Jude?
No, Onesimus from Philemon.
That's right.
Philemon's the slave master. I ain't Greek. I'm butchering that. It sounds like Onesimus is close to that.
Yeah, when Paul writes to him and basically tells him, like, do your job and do it really well. I think it's probably possible to act as a slave in that context and still find joy in your work. And so that I would kind of differentiate those two things. Yeah,
maybe.
Now, to your point, the point you're making, I do generically agree with. I will say that. Yeah.
Yeah, that whole, this is a tangent, but just that whole situation of, I don't understand, was it culturally different than what we think of?
And it must be, because the idea of slavery does not sit well with anyone, obviously. And so, like, but the way the Bible talks about it, it doesn't seem like the same thing we think of. So I don't know.
I would have to go back and do, first of all, actually read Philemon. When was the last time you read Philemon? I mean, for me, it's probably been like 7 years.
It's probably been 2 or 3 years.
Okay. Second of all, I don't understand any of the Greek words. And I think, as we established with Garrison, I don't trust any of the modern translations 100%. That's not the point. I mean, I think the point, is
I think I can agree with your greater point that you were making about a job and work.
Probably not as black and white, but it's pretty dang close. Work is a good thing. Toil is. Yeah.
And I want to ask, is, like, maybe the point he's making there is maybe being joyful in suffering also is kind of what I've always kind of brought that
and
to. That's always where my head's gone at when reading Philemon, is be joyful in suffering, because that's kind of the concept that Jesus gives when he's talking in a similar light.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I just thought of that and was like, oh well, we at least need to address that potential issue. So
yeah,
go
John.
ahead.
Yeah, John. I think I could get on board with that because everything we're saying is mega idealistic, and obviously this world isn't like that.
Right.
So your attitude, your perspective is what can change your outlook on life. So
Right.
perhaps, like, if you're stuck in this, to put it up to now, if you're stuck in these jobs, if you're stuck in all this crap, like, you can't just snap your fingers and be out of it. So be joyful in what you have now. Work, work. Try, make attempts,
Toil.
build towards getting out of it, but still keep a positive perspective, which I am absolutely horrible at.
Me too.
Because I'm a hypocrite. But yeah, John, that was a good point. So thank you. Actually, thank you for interrupting me, because that's a very good point.
It doesn't make you a hypocrite to be able to recognize and speak to a concept you have difficulty with. People like to point fingers and call that hypocrisy all the time, but you can talk about something that you're not great at and not be a hypocrite.
Yeah, that's honesty.
Yeah, exactly. It bothers me when it's always little you want to be, well, that's hypocritical. Like, you.
Well,
You know?
Definitely don't ever. Yeah, saying that about yourself, saying it about somebody else, two completely different things.
Right, yeah.
Just to go back to Paul, that's like, him doing what you. Oh, I'm gonna totally butcher this verse. I do the things that I want to do. I don't do the things that I do want to do.
Yeah.
That verse.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But okay, so you're differentiating between like work and a job.
Yeah.
Work and slavery, more or less, and how
Right.
they're very different things. And you're saying that, you almost have to find joy in work. Like there's no other way to, like it's not work if it doesn't give you joy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, dude. I think I'd say that. And like think about, like, what do we get? This is another thing. Like, what do we get in return? All right. Like, if from our jobs we get this money in return, right? Almost like here's your allowance.
Right.
Here's your.
It does feel that way.
Here's your ration for the day. You do your toil for us. We'll give you your ration. All right. And they condition us through propaganda and basically through like abuse. Right. It's like Pavlovian conditioning from the moment we were born to accept that with joy and like call it a blessing and all this and all that. When compare that to real work, right? It's inverted. What do you get from real work? It's something that you've made, right? And you recognize it's like God resting on the seventh day. It's literally like a tiny version of that. It's like you look back on it and it is good, right? God worked to make this place, and since we're made in His image, we do essentially tiny versions of that when we're at our most joyful and doing our best work, which I think is the very first commandment in the Bible, and the best work is be fruitful and multiply and to have children.
Oh, that was the end of that.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on any of that I said? No.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not a parent, so it's hard for me to speak to that concept. Like, I've never. Honestly, being a parent sounds horrible to me.
Oh, there's nothing
but-
better, dude. There is nothing like holding that little man.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell me that, but I'm not gonna understand it.
Yeah, you can.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just not gonna register. There are some things, and I tend not to like this idea, because I think in a lot of contexts it's bullshit. But there are some things that's hard to intrinsically understand without experiencing them, and
That one's number one,
that is one that I will concede is probably virtually impossible to understand without like actually experiencing it. And also, like, at least for me, like, I've never been at a point in my life where I've felt the desire to have kids because my life has been too up. And so, once I reach that point, I'll probably be able to conceptualize of that idea a little bit better. But at the moment, it just sounds so like miserable. You know?
Let me tell you.
Because kids, they're great, but they're exhausting.
No, dude.
So
I just have to interrupt. But you're right. There is no way that you can ever. I feel pretty confident in saying this. You'll agree with me if you ever have kids, and you can't even conceptualize that right now.
No, I can't.
Right?
I can't.
Like
at all.
You hold that little man, and you recognize like there is nothing more important or valuable in this life, and that's it.
No, and I mean, perhaps that's true. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's not just limited to kids. That's the number one, I would say, 100%. But there's little things like think about a master of his craft, right?
Well, and that's the kind of thing that I'm wanting to drive at. Yeah.
Yeah, that has that same energy, not to the degree of producing a child, but definitely has that same energy, that same joy, that same hey, look what I made. I can take pride in this.
Right. And that's not to harp on, not to be like a Ayn Rand fanboy, but that's the kind of thing that she writes into a lot of her novels, is the people she writes about with such reverence and respect are people who are true masters and truly devoted to their craft. And the love that they express for that thing is immense and incredible, almost like, in a way, the love of a child. Like the way she'll write her characters talking about their work is almost that of a proud parent. And to me, like, that's the relationship I want to have with something I'm going to spend, because conceptually, like, at a corporate job, I don't want to spend more time than I have to dealing with making someone else money. But if it's mine, I'm okay spending a tremendous amount of time doing it because I'm getting something back for it. So, like, if I'm going to do something for 6, 8, 12, 14 hours a day, I want to have that feeling about. I'm okay doing something for 16 hours a day if I have that feeling about it. But if it's a soul-sucking, cubicle where the lights make me want to just jump out the mother window and become a pool on the pavement, hell no.
Yeah, man. It goes back to the whole corporate inversion thing, right? There's no and God resting on the seventh day because it is good. There's nothing good about a corporation. You can't look at everything like in the corporate world and be like, what I'm doing is good, right? But think about a master woodworker who spends hours on the lathe and like picks the perfect tree and it's got these little chisels and spends forever, and then he makes like this chair that's freaking awesome. And you look back on it, and it's good. And people can recognize. People know good when they see it. Right? We're all these master, like, taekwondo dudes, these Japanese guys who can, like, do 40 flips. And we're like, oh, man, that's amazing. Yeah. We recognize masters of their craft because it's good. That's what we know good and evil. We know what is good and what's not. All right? And that's because there's a God, and he's alive. There's no other reason. There ain't no penguin that evolved into a freaking dinosaur that evolved into a mammal somehow, and we're
getting off track here, but yeah, sure.
The point is morality, good and not good, is inherently built into our code.
I mean, I'd agree with that. Yeah,
and
for sure.
The whole corporate inversion exists to hide that from us and to try and replicate it enough to keep us going, and to stop us from like facing that in our own self. Right?
Yeah. I also want to interrupt because you said something that I kind of picked up on. As you kind of said, it's like it's sucking energy, and it literally is, because if you think of work is building something. I kind of think of it's building something that's going to outlast you. If you think of what he's saying is like the ultimate thing, a child, like the child is going to hopefully outlast you, and it's going to carry on what you teach, what you put into it, and in other things, it's the same way. Going smaller down, you think of a woodworker, what they build is going to hopefully outlast them. And in like a corporation, you're putting in the effort, but the final result's not going to outlast you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think that's why it's not fulfilling, because as you're putting in the effort to it, but you're going to be replaced at some point down the line. Because whenever you retire, whenever you die, someone else is just going to come into that seat and do the same thing, and no one's going to remember you.
Right.
So it is sucking. It's sucking that working energy to where you're not getting a byproduct.
The siphoning off of souls.
Exactly. That's a great way to describe it.
To harken back to, I don't know, somebody said that at some point.
Dude, it is, because like think about.
It's a good point, John.
Yeah, let's go back. It is a good point. Go back to the woodworker. He makes a bench. He puts his energy, he puts his heart and soul into it, and it's a beautiful bench, and it's just there. Okay. But a corporate, no, think about this.
What you're saying is great and very. That's just the idea.
But a corporation, dude, it's never going to be just there. People quit working, that thing dies.
Right.
It's gone. It's like a vapor in the wind. It's like a Dementor. It's literally like a Dementor going from soul to soul to soul. It only exists because of the energy it takes. Whereas when we're working, when we're creating, boom, it exists outside of us now.
Right.
And it doesn't continue to suck us.
Yeah.
It's just another inversion, dude. It's another satanic inversion of what our image of God in us does. one of the many ways. This is one of the very few times where I would think that's both literal and metaphorical. Most of the time, that's impossible. But I think that's one that's probably both, don't you think? But
You'd have to say that again for me to really follow
the
that.
image of God, what it means
Oh,
to
okay. I see.
we are in the image of God. It's both.
Yeah, no, I think there you're dead on accurate, because the idea of like a higher power, the idea of the creator is just that, creating. And so I think if if we're going to ally that with the idea that he made us in his image, right? Then we're all creators ourselves. We have this innate drive to create. I mean, that seems to have echoed itself, like be echoed throughout the whole of history. People create, period.
People work. Work is creation, man.
Yeah. And so, like, what is the question that then begs the question, what does that look like now in 2024? Because I think it's become, because of, the system, increasingly more difficult to go create. And people will tell you, well, go live your American dream, This is America. You can go do whatever you want. But it's and it could be that maybe I'm just lazy. It could be that a lot of people I know are just lazy, or like things have changed and it's not as easy to go create.
Dude.
And it could be a mixture of the two. I don't
It's
know
both.
that it is, but
It's definitely both. All right. There's some laziness involved in us. Okay. But it's not 1981, right? It's 2024. You can't go out and buy a house for $40,000. You can't go out and get this perfect corporate job, get your pension, get your retirement, both, because it was like two different things, right? Get your Social Security, everything, work just one job. We are frogs in boiling water. It probably started out like that, man, right? A thief, like,
started out like what?
with the ability to build the American dream, to create through a
job.
through a
corporate
job.
Okay.
That did exist, and it's not perfect.
And I know people who have done that.
But you have to turn away from what was good. You have to do it slowly over time, right? Like the frog in boiling water. Otherwise, people are going to notice.
Yeah.
You can't just immediately upend everything and put everyone in cages and entrap everyone, because people would rebel. But if you do it slowly, over the course of years and years and years, right? As I have said, about my grandmother from 1941, when she's buying a Coke for 5 cents, as opposed to now, people aren't going to know, because it'll just normalize. That's how we know there's an evil system in this world, because of the inhumane lifetimes. We already touched on that in previous podcasts. But to get back to what it looks like we're at a completely different stage than we were then. We are farther down the road. Our time and we're being given things that are of less value from the same amount, or if same amount more time than there was in the beginning, right? Like, all right,
I don't know what that means, but okay.
1951, you work at General Electric.
All right.
In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
That's a kick-ass job, right? You've got your pension, you've got your
401k.
401k, X amount of money a month. You've got your wife, 2.5 kids, your picket fence.
Right.
You're good.
Your vine-covered family and
right.
your happy house, or your happy house and your vine-covered family, whatever.
Right.
I said that backwards.
2024, it doesn't even have to be a corporate job at General Electric. It can be working at the factory in freaking Detroit.
Yeah.
Right?
Car factory.
Yeah, that right now, your insurance is terrible. You have a $20,000 deductible, right? You have to pay $2,400 a month just to have a house to have enough to have that 2.5 kids,
right?
Because you can't go in a 1-bedroom apartment. Rent's outrageous. Mortgages are outrageous. It's $400,000 to buy a house that you can actually comfortably live in. Your wife's got to work too, but if wife's working too, you got to pay the daycare $800 a month to watch your kids.
So there goes her income.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's your point. Or that's the answer to your question, right?
Right.
They have slowly tricked us over time by, taking the real system out, which I love to hammer. They probably did that in 1871. Okay, they took God's system out, common law system out, replaced it with a corporate system that looked almost identical. It had to look almost identical in the beginning, otherwise people wouldn't have taken it. But there'd be subtle differences here, subtle differences there, and then slowly, over the course of 120-something years, every year you just turn the knob a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And we're extremely adaptive. We're extremely resilient. Human beings are incredible. We just adapt.
Right.
And before you know it, we look back and we're like, what the heck happened? How did we get to this point? Right?
Yeah, I think you make a very good point there.
You take a snapshot of then and now, and it's like black and white. But you take a snapshot of now and last year, and it's like black to 0.99% of black.
Right.
See what I mean? And once you get down the line, you're looking at something that's completely different than it used to be, and you don't even know how we got here.
Yeah.
That doesn't really answer the question of what you do about it.
Well, yeah, but to the point you're trying to make, like, you used to be able to go work at the mine and make enough money to be able to buy the mine later.
Yeah, that's the idea of the American dream.
Yeah. You can't go work at Google and make enough money to buy Google. You can't go work at Tesla or Ford and make enough money to buy that's not happening. And like you're saying, every year it gets just a little bit worse. And I think there are also those times where, like, we kind of factor in like a big jump, 9/11, 2020, like big changes.
Every 18 and a half years tied to the solar cycle. It's almost like that's written in the skies.
And so, like, I think you're correct about that. I still, and maybe it's the idealist in me, refuse to believe that there's not a way to, have a life and not be, mother miserable. And I don't think, because everyone's solution is go have a homestead. I don't think that's for everybody. There's got to be a way for people to get away from the nonsense.
Well, quickly to tie up, to like finish what we were talking about, to get it back to your original point, I think people are starting to figure that out, and that's why people are like not as inclined to be working, because they're tired of being exploited.
And I mean, maybe that's true, but in my experience, everybody I meet wants to work. So I don't get that.
Question: is it they want to work or they don't have another choice? Like,
I mean,
maybe
yeah.
differentiate that, because it's like,
It's true.
People who are at their wits' end, can't afford anything, and it's like, you may not want to do it, but you may have to do it.
I mean, that's the position I'm in.
Correct. So
Yeah,
that's what we
I
mean.
think you need to make that distinction.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean when I say that. Is everybody I know of is looking to be working at a job, be doing a job. Maybe not working in the way we've defined work, but everybody I know of is because of the need for it, trying to be employed at a job.
Yeah, now to get back to what we're gonna do about it, and I think the homesteading is the best way forward. Like to get as far away from the system as you possibly can. It's not going to be 100%. And this gets back to your nihilistic rant that we had in the military-industrial complex. But to just do the best you can to incrementally wean yourself off, kind of like our a hero, an absolute hero, Mr. Owen Benjamin is doing. Okay, to work towards his life. All right, and Carson, this is like not to be a dick, but this gets back into the kids thing. Like, it all changes when you have kids.
It did seem to change for him when he had kids.
Right. It seriously does, man. Like, your whole focus shifts from...
I will say his little compound does seem a little culty to me. Kind of freaks me out.
Barrett's area?
Yeah.
Well, he's living the dream, man, trying to get away from the system and build the common law.
And maybe that's true, but it just seems a little... It smacks of cultish behavior. Now, does that mean that that's the case? No. Do I respect him for what he's doing? Absolutely, seems amazing. I'd fucking go live there. But it just seems a little culty. I think we can agree.
Well,
on that, right?
I mean, it gets into the whole three ways of discernment and the extremes of all three of them. Extreme ethos will lead to a cult. Right? There's got to be balance. I don't live in Barrett area. I don't know what is happening there.
Right.
I would love to.
It'd be fun to go check
so
out.
I cannot comment one way or the other. Just
No.
the fact that it exists does not seem culty to me. That's propaganda, like with the whole Ruby Ridge and freaking, all that crap in the 90s.
And I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it seems a little. That's all.
It seems like it could go that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It seems like. Yeah, that's my thought process.
But that doesn't mean it is, and I have
Right.
no idea.
Yeah.
But that I mean, that to me is, I don't know. It's not like it's another thing too. Is like we as men are always constantly trying to have answers and trying to figure it out. Okay, and accepting that and I can't accept this, that there isn't an answer. Like you said, the idealist in you can't accept. Maybe that's different from no, like you're just screwed. But I don't know what the answer is, but I know what the answer isn't, right? I know what not to do.
Yeah.
And to try and fork your different ways out of what not to do. Perhaps that looks different to different people. But my current idealistic position is something like Barataria, to raise your kids as far away from the system as you can, to build your own community as far as you can. The common law of man that existed before 1871 in this republic, where you just live on your land, you have community with your neighbors. You know, every 20 years some crap would happen, and perhaps you'd have to get together with your state to discuss the crap. But everything was way decentralized. Everything was way more localized. People were way happier.
Yeah.
People had more time, right? All this technology, that's another big thing, too. I think we forget the technological
We just take it for granted.
right, that have really impacted work and the lack thereof. You know, it goes hand in hand with the corporations. You know, where did all this technology come from? Like, I couldn't tell you how an iPhone works or why that's our little blue screen on the soundboard's blue. Well, I couldn't. I have no idea.
That's blue because the light for it's blue.
Well, I don't like. How did they put that in there? I don't know. I don't circuit board. All this stuff comes down to like top down origin. I'm serious, man. Like common law versus corporate law, land versus water, and ultimately good versus evil, God versus Satan. Like the whole idea is we're going to be hoodwinked into illusions. The devil's the father of lies. And we're at just a point right now where we've gone so far down the hole, like we cannot look. We don't know what direction we're looking. There's so many lies everywhere. It is tough to even determine a direction.
I think I've lost the thread of the point you're trying to make.
Well, yeah, the point I'm trying to make is what do we do about it? And I'm saying we're so far down the rabbit hole, it's tough to even determine which direction to go to be able to do something about it.
Okay. So
That's
that's just
the
a really long-winded way of saying I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is hard to accept as a man because we got to know. Like, we got to have answers. Or at least
Yeah.
I'm like that. Like, I hate.
Yeah. Well, there's some things there's some things that I can say I'm okay, I don't know, it's fine. And then there's some things that I at least have to believe there's an answer for, or I don't want to fucking wake up tomorrow. And that's one of those things. It's not like it's not an intrinsic need in the way you're describing it. Is like it's not like a manly need. Like there are some things, you know, that there's that masculine need to have an answer for. For me, that's not one of those things. It is simply like if I wake up tomorrow and I don't believe that there's a way for me to work in a good way, like as we've defined it, then I don't want to wake up tomorrow.
Yeah, that'll breed nihilistic behavior. Another point of the entire corporate system.
Yeah.
Well,
and I mean, and we talked about that kind of ad nauseum, but the whole structure of the corporate system seems to exist almost to force that into you. Like a lot of the buildings you walk into, you're in a plain cubicle, plain walls. There's nothing attractive. There's nothing creative. There's nothing good about the environment. Maybe you like your coworkers, right? But that's as good as it's gonna get.
yeah, it's a philosophy, man. The philosophy is literally built into the geometry of where you work, to the structure of where you work, to the structure of where you are.
Right. The pinnacle of that experience is a fun conversation at lunch for 10 minutes.
Yeah, which is just so wild. It speaks to the nature of this system and just how like unbelievably intricately designed it is. That's almost overwhelming, you know.
Yeah.
And that I just want to hammer the idea of we are farther down it. Right. That's to me like the most what do I do about it part is we are so far down it.
When you say so far down, what do you mean?
The timeline.
Like that's
the timeline.
What timeline?
The timeline of. All right, so the system was made for a purpose, right? Systems are. You don't just make a system to alter. You can't set up something so intricate with no purpose. Anything that's designed like this. And when I'm saying anything in the system, I mean the corporate system that we currently find ourselves in. That had to have been designed.
Okay.
This isn't just a natural evolution of man. Would you agree with that?
I don't know.
This is
You
not
haven't finished
human-
making your point, so we'll see.
All right, so my point is that had to have been designed for a purpose. If it's designed for a purpose, the purpose is in the future. It's a goal. This is a goal in the future. All right, and maybe there's several goals along the way, but there's got to be an end goal to things. Otherwise, there's no point of anything.
Well, I think on a very base, concrete level, or do you have a? Sorry, I don't mean to stop you.
So, well, my point is, if there's an end goal to the purpose of the system, reaching goals take time. All right, so you're going on a timeline forward. We are way. I mean, obviously you can't know this, but we are. It seems, right, intuitively that we are way farther to the end of the goal, closer to the goal than we were at the beginning. Obviously, the beginning you're farthest away from it.
Yeah, that makes
right?
sense.
So
that concept is almost necessitated.
So the question is, how do you go back? Right? It seems overwhelming to even. It seems even impossible. It's like trying to swim against a torrent. You know, it's like, you know, when the river's in flood stage, how do you go back to, if we're on the Duck River and we're in Humphreys County going towards the Tennessee River and we're in a flood stage, how the heck are you going to get back to Normandy Dam? It's so far away. There's so much going in one direction that we don't even know what to do, right? There's not an engine big enough. Does that make sense? That metaphor makes sense.
I mean, the metaphor made sense. I'm not sure I agree with it, but the metaphor made sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to agree with it. That's just how I see. And maybe it's a bleak view. But
that's exceptionally bleak.
That's how I see where we are now. And
well, let's pause.
Okay.
And I'll respond to what you just said.
All right.
Because otherwise we're going to lose that thread. So I would suggest that on a much more basic level, most of these corporate systems that exist do not exist for the people who work there. They exist for the few people at the top, right? And so if you're going to work there, you have to know, like, you are in a pyramid scheme. For that thing to function, it has to be a pyramid scheme. How does that work? The people at the bottom of the pyramid get okay? Bend over, open up your ass. You're going to get That's what you're here for. Just accept it, all right? Just deal with it. That's what you're there for. And so, like, the peace that people have, the joy people seem to fake about going into these jobs seems insane to me, because that's how they function. We all know it, but we pretend not to. So on a very basic level, like, they're already there to over, right? The people at the top are feeding off of those people at the bottom. That's how that works. It has to. Period.
Carson, dude, I couldn't agree more. They tell us that. Revelation, it's on the back of every dollar bill they give you.
Yeah.
It's on the back of every single one. They're telling you it's a pyramid scheme. The people at the top rule the people at the bottom. And they give you little pieces of paper that have that on it.
Right. So, I lost track of the other thing I was going to respond to. And it's not like I think that every company that employs multiple people is bad. It's not. But if you work at, Google, or if you work at Tesla or what, it's the same thing we talk, like, you're never going to make enough cash to be able to buy the company. That whole concept of the American dream in relationship to large corporations does not exist anymore. I don't know if it ever did, but it sure as hell doesn't exist now.
Yeah, and that's where I get at with the timeline. And to your point about, hey, not every company is bad. Like, yeah, of course not. Think about, like, the Lee company, air conditioning company around here, okay? Right? What now, the CEO of that guy, what does he do, right? He probably researches and talks to other people in his similar industry, right? And they're all in conjunction with each other, and all those guys are, like, to bigger and bigger and bigger companies. And then if, say, you're the head of a giant air conditioning company called Carrier, well, they report to government regulators, right? And government regulators report to, right, and like you get to pyramids within pyramids within pyramids within pyramids, and you keep going up and up and up. And that's why I always say everything leads from the top down. Who's at the top? Who's at the top?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
It's satanic.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, you're right. But I don't want to sound like super anti. Like, some companies are good. The idea of, like, it's almost like the family. Like, you need other people if you're going to accomplish a large goal. That's not a bad thing.
A company can't be good.
Well, I use the term company loosely.
Right. I know, but
like, if I'm going to go out,
there's good people everywhere.
Yeah. Well, if I like want to open a restaurant, I need more people to work at that restaurant. And if I'm not retarded, I'm going to pay them well so they'll stay at that restaurant. Like, that's how that should work. Now, on a massive scale, though, like, if you're gonna have a what?
No, it's just the irony of what are you paying them with? You've been mandated to pay them with a certain thing.
Well, I mean,
they control you through that, dude.
Well, Yeah, that's a fair point. If you're going to get away from that, though, I mean, that's virtually impossible in the system we have.
That's the point, dude. They've got you in such a chokehold that no matter your purest intentions, you gotta play with their cards. The dollar bill is their cards, man.
Crypto? I don't know. I don't have a solution.
And that gets back to the timeline thing. We should have never let this bank come into existence. We should have rebelled 100 and however many years ago the Federal Reserve was at. That was the point where that was what flipped it, man. That's where it's like an hourglass. It's like that's where the last piece of sand fell, and we were into the next stage, and there ain't no going back up. That thing screwed us.
Definitely didn't help.
Yeah, I don't know. Did I derail your thought there?
No.
It's just like even
that's assuming I had a thought to begin with. No.
Yeah, that's how they get you the dollar bill, because there's tons of people that start companies and do good things with even through the system, right?
Right, there are, yeah,
and donate to all kinds of good causes and help a lot of people out. Like, I'm super grateful for my job and for the people that have helped me out and where I work, but they still pay me in dollar bills.
And you work at a bank,
right? they still there is no getting out of that system if you're using the dollar bill.
Yeah.
And and like I said, they put that pyramid on the back of every dollar bill.
Yeah, it seems pretty.
Yeah, but to go back to the river analogy, the only person that can stop it is the person who can freaking stop the river. It's God, man. It's
yeah.
Do you believe that there's a benevolent God, a benevolent creator coming to save you?
Depends on the day.
Right?
Depends on the day.
Coming to help us, right? And is he not going to help you if you're not doing your part?
Well, and the idea of doing your part, like, that gets back to to doing work, in my opinion. And that at least for me has been a difficult search. I know a lot of people who aren't even entertaining that search, which I find like inconceivable. Like, you're okay just being unhappy for 9 hours. You're okay with that? I don't understand how people are okay with that to begin with.
Because it's terrifying,
but
dude.
That gets back to undertaking the very difficult search of finding like real work as we've defined it in this particular scenario. And I think that's one of the maybe not the most important, but that's one of the more important searches we have to undertake as human beings. And especially if you entertain the idea of like a specialized economy and larger groups, you're going to find something that you can devote yourself to, maybe not to the exclusion of other things, but that you can devote yourself to and excel at and learn and practice,
Yeah. To give a quick understanding before you get to your point, it's because a lot of people think that the search is over once they, that the system has granted them that the search is over. If you think about how you go through, school and everything, you spend 8 hours a day sitting in a desk, right? You do that for 12 years, then you go to college, and college will gear you towards whatever you think that you want to do, and you're working to get some job at some corporation once you get there. A lot of people think the search is over at that point. So it's not, for me, it's not really that difficult to understand that, because it has deceived a lot of people into thinking that, whatever corporate job you got into, anything like that, like, your search is over there. And to Robert's point, that's terrifying.
I've never even considered that possibility. Like, for me, on a personal level, by the time I made it through high school and into college and started like having jobs and doing, like, I knew, like, well, this is miserable. I need to keep looking for, like, something I enjoy doing and can really pour my energy into and feel good about pouring my energy into it. I've had a lot of jobs that I felt terrible about pouring my energy into,
Yeah, well, dude, that gets into the nature of think about the allegory of the cave, right? The cave is all these people ever know, right? That's what John just described, was people living in the cave.
Yeah.
What's happening to you is you're one of those people that look up and see that there's lights over there. Where are they coming from, right? And you go towards them. You want to investigate. You have the desire to learn, and you discover, hey, this is a cave. We can get out of here. There's more out of this cave. But people grown so comfortable into the dark of the cave that they'll just beat you for suggesting that there's anything else.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm familiar with the analogy.
Right. Well, that's what it is, man. It's like, is it inherent in the nature of, hey, we're curious. We don't accept. We can, for some reason, or another, accept that what we're living in is not everything, whereas opposed to other people have been, and both people born like Bane, born bred in the darkness, right? Both have been in this environment forever, but for some reason you accept that this may not be everything, other people can't. Like, is it an individual thing that's tied to the nature of your makeup, you know? And that gets into metaphysical questions that, who can answer that? God, our maker?
Well, you've described actually something that's happened to me recently, where I was like, telling some a friend about like my job situation, my experience, and the fact that I'm still like figuring it out. I get it. I'm 31. It seems insane, but like I've been looked at over the years when I describe that whole process. You know, like people approach it as if it's almost morally apprehensive. You know, like it's morally problematic.
Oh,
and I'm like, what in the world,
dude,
are you talking about?
Think about the. Yeah, man. Like if you're still looking for a job or career by the time you're in your 30s, you're like, oh man, something's wrong with this guy. He's a sinner. Right?
that's the way people think about it.
He's not in this religion of Satan that we've all accepted.
I do declare.
Something's wrong with him.
Right.
Right. It's like the same way. Like if you get fired from your job and you've got to be
you must be a bad person.
You've got to be like Cain, a vagabond, and marked as a wanderer on the earth. Seriously, it's
a
like
vagabond. You mean?
Yeah. Whatever. Whatever. Did I not say that?
Vagabond, I believe is what you said.
Is that not how you say it?
It's vagabond.
Is that not what I said?
No.
Vagabond?
Vagabond.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
No,
VAVBOND. Vagabond.
You said it right that time.
That's what I've been saying.
Are you hearing the difference, John?
That's what I've been saying.
I stopped paying attention to this little interchange a while back. I'm sorry.
All right, go ahead.
I don't even know what I was saying now.
Talking about people who, like, get upset or think you're a bad person if you get fired.
Yeah, because kind of what John was saying, they've kind of accepted their journey and purpose because it's been handed to them, and that's the easy thing to do. Whereas we are like, hey, what is mine? I don't know. I'm looking for it. Like, to me, I love Legos. I love creating huge things out of Legos, and I find...
And you're very good at it.
I find...
You're very good at it.
You know, it's a small degree, but it's some kind of that energy from spending huge amounts of time making gigantic castles out of Legos.
Well, it's creating. You're creating something.
Yeah, it's still, like, to a way lesser degree than... to something else I love to do, music, right? Music is a higher degree than that. But all of it is it's like the hourglass. All of it is stuff from the top as opposed to corporate stuff is in the bottom, right? And there's like a turning point. I
didn't get that, but okay.
You got common law and you've got corporate law. You've got creativity and you've got soul-sucking energy. You've got parasitic energy, right?
All right, that was dramatic.
And
okay.
well, there's my point is that there's degrees of everything, and there's a point in the middle, right? Kind of like where do Jedis and Sith meet? Like, where's the point where good turns? I'm trying to describe the concept here, and right, there's stuff that branches out from the point in the middle, right?
Keep going. Maybe it'll make sense to me. Keep going.
I'm just trying to say that there's good things that are more good than previous good things before them. There's better and better and better. There's worse and worse and worse and worse.
Okay.
Right? And you can extrapolate that idea out to work and energy and creativity as well as soul-sucking. There are things that are less soul-sucking than other things. And you get to kind of survive more in the middle ground. And
I don't see how an hourglass fed into that analogy, but it makes sense now.
Take an hourglass and turn it 90 degrees. There's a point in the middle where you're...
Okay. I don't know why I would envision an hourglass on its side, but I understand your point now.
Yeah, and that point's your turning point, like which way you're going to go,
Yeah, I mean, and that's a good thought. Like, at the very least, you can move, towards the more pleasant side of things.
Right.
To kind of use your...
That's the whole point, and you, for lack of a better word, banking on God to take you the rest of the way.
Well, I mean, what else are you going to do? If you don't believe in something bigger than yourself, then you're gonna find yourself in some sort of nihilistic sinkhole, right? And so you have to, at the very least, even if you're, some just godless whore out there, right? At the very least, you have to believe that whatever actions you're undertaking are going to propel you in a positive direction. If you don't believe that, then what are you doing anyway? You know?
Yeah, or you have to believe that your actions could take you in a positive direction, not necessarily that they're all going to.
Well, right.
Yeah, but you have to believe that that's possible.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of life, man. That's what gives. We all believe that, because otherwise we would assign no value to this place at all.
Right.
That is inherent in the nature of where we are. You can't to not believe that is to lie to yourself, because we all know that.
You think there's anybody who doesn't think that?
Sure, there's plenty of people who don't think that, but there's nobody who doesn't know that. Believing and knowing are different things. Believing is a choice.
It's true.
Knowledge is revelation. You either know something or you don't.
All right.
Would you not agree?
I'd have to think about that a little longer, but I think I would. Yeah, I think I'd agree. All right.
Yeah.
I like the definition we came up with work. That was good.
Yeah. We still haven't answered the question on what to do.
Well, I didn't think nobody has an answer for how to for self. If people had a strong and fast answer for self-fulfillment, then that would be the best-selling book out there.
There is one, and it is the best-selling book out there. Ecclesiastes chapter 12.
You understand my point.
It's the best-selling book.
And so, like, if people had a hard and fast answer for, hey, do this, and you're going to feel great about yourself every day, then it would, nobody would wonder, hey, what in the world should I do with myself?
I don't know.
Nobody would go looking for work. That would never happen. So I don't expect you or I or anyone else to come up with an answer, but it's the idea of being okay with continuing that search and a willingness to continue that search, to genuinely make an effort to, not have your energy just siphoned off and go nowhere, and to pour your energy into something or things that are actually positive, creative, fulfilling.
Yeah, and I don't know is not an excuse to tap out.
Right.
That's only an acceptable answer if you keep moving. If you say I don't know and quit moving, the devil shuts you dead.
That's fair. That's fair. I feel like I keep relating this discussion back to myself, but this is as you're well aware, this has been a large theme of my life. But I've said I don't know a million times, but you just keep looking.
Yeah.
Day in, day out, like it's just part of it.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay. You're gonna get a lot of fucking weird looks. People are gonna make fun. That's okay, but you don't let that discourage you from continuing a genuine search. And the same thing. To bring us back to the. What?
You don't let that stop you. It's going to discourage you from time to time.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it is, but you don't let it stop you.
And the same thing is true to bring us just absolutely full motherfucking circle for your search for truth. Like, people are going to fuck with you. They're going to make fun of it. But as long as that search is, it's okay to say, I don't know. But you keep looking. Period.
Yeah.
Full stop.
And where does it lead you?
A little closer to truth every day, right?
That truth is God, man. It's got to be. That's the only answer. It leads you back to the Creator.
I think that's a good place to stop.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening, folks. See you next time.
Yeah. See you next time.